Hello folks, I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today we're taking another look at Ramsey Campbell's short story in this collection called Print, which I have been doing a deep dive for you for my Cthulhu October month. This is this 1964 short story called The Horror from the Bridge, which is the third short story in this collection. It's about 30 pages long. Last night it took me about close to an hour for me to read, probably more like 55 minutes, but it was pretty fun. I just got engrossed with it. A lot of fun stuff happens in it. We've been doing, as a reminder, I like to dedicate my Octobers to the Cthulhu Mythos, and each year I spend my 3 weekly reviews on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday dedicated to this stuff. I had 5 short stories left over from last year that were written by Lynn Carter that I did reviews for. Now I am doing this. I'm reading this in mid-September, a couple weeks before October begins, but that's all right. So we'll go ahead and take a look at it. Now, before this, I had reviewed 2 short stories by Lynn Carter. I'm sorry, by Lynn Carter, by Ramsey Campbell, rather. Campbell's fantasy short story. That was the first fantasy short story by him I'd ever read, in a collection called Appendix N that we did a deep dive into for you a couple months ago. And then a short story in a horror collection I got that was really fast. It was like 100 short stories and like 500 pages long. So that means the average short story is about 5 pages long. So it was pretty quick, and I knocked that one out too. The first short story that I ever read by Ramsey Campbell is The Church in High Street, the first short story in this collection. And I read it in a Cthulhu Mythos collection when I was in college. In my junior year, I bought my first Lovecraft publication. It was a collection by Del Rey, which is a collectors that I regularly use as a publisher, and so I buy a lot of those things from fantasy and science fiction sides of things too, and I really trust them as a source of for a book source of things. And so I bought that, really liked it, and I did a deeper and deeper, bought another collection, and did a deeper dive, and ever since then I've read a lot more horror stuff than I have the other 2 genres, fantasy and science fiction, that we also do reviews for of this channel. So anyway, and I definitely enjoyed that. Now, as a reminder, the channel's title, The Worst Thing About New Books, is a famous quote by Jacques Joubert, a French philosopher from the 18th century, who said that the worst thing about new books was that they kept us from reading the old ones. So this channel really likes to focus on these older things that are out there. And so in this case, a 1964 short story published early in Ramsey Campbell's career is definitely something worth it. Now, this short story is about, I'm going to give the same rating that I gave to the previous 2 short stories, a 7- to The Horror from the Bridge. It definitely felt like it was probably a little too long at times. It's still early in his career, so his writing style isn't very good. Later on, he is going to develop a sense of wonder and awesomeness when you read his things, his horror stuff, in addition to the horror feelings. Later on, he'll develop that style. For example, in his novel Midnight Sun, that's the case. But in this case, he's still just pure horror. He has lacked that development of style. His language isn't as developed or sophisticated. It really seems like he's trying to mirror Lovecraft. For example, he uses the word cyclopean in this, which is a word that Lovecraft uses in most of his Cthulhu Mythos short stories. So that's definitely in here too. So for those reasons, he's not getting as high, as he would probably get later on in his career coming to this. Also, again, it's probably felt about 5 pages too long. This short story, and again, I keep my reviews spoiler free, but this short story basically is telling the story of the entire life of a person and then that person's son. So it takes place about longer than a century of time. And ultimately some bad stuff will happen, and then some good stuff has to happen. Now, I didn't think the ending was particularly great for a horror short story. I felt like the first short story's horror ending, and the last 2 have had similar ones, and I preferred the first one's horror, from the horror on the bridge. So that's another reason why I'm dropping it down. So I'm giving it like a 6.9 or a 6.8, rounding it up. So it's basically like a 7-, if you will. Then I prefer a 7 out of 10. But hey, if I published a short story like early in my career, just a couple of years, and I was getting 7s from people, I'd be very happy about that, right? right, early on in my career. You know, just a couple years in, right? Because his first one was published in '62, which I've already reviewed for it. All of his early stuff is in the Cthulhu Mythos, so we'll be doing a deeper dive into cold print for you. So there you are. As a reminder, the Cthulhu Mythos was created by H.P. Lovecraft and some of his friends and co-workers, and in the writing for various pulps in the 20s. He wrote a short story that would incorporate elements from previous short stories that he had written, like the Necronomicon or the character Cthulhu that's introduced in the short story The Call of Cthulhu, and so forth. And these various things, and then he'll start using things that were published by some of his friends and cohorts that are writing for other pulps, or the same pulp that he was writing for. Many of his things called Weird Tales. So that's where this sort of started. It was a shared universe, one of the first. And so that's basically what this thing is. And so again, when I say that he's trying to mimic horror, I think Lovecraft probably a little too much in this short story. And it's too early in his career to be doing that. He hasn't found his own voice yet, right? So that's where I think some of my issues with this short story come from. What do you think? Have you read The Horror from the Bridge? What did you think? By Ramsey Campbell, published in 1964. What did you think about it? Did you like it? If so, let's talk about it in the comments below. If not, let's talk about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We're all just getting pulled in so many different ways, right? And having so many different things that are happening that are demanding our time. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.